I think we are online. Hello, everybody. If you see this, please let us know in a message in the chat box on your right side. Welcome to this webinar. I'm super excited to have, first of you, all of you guys out there with us on board. This is another webinar. It's basically already a part of the Lifestyle Design Convention that is going to happen next year, and we just thought we want to pump out as much value as possible for you guys, and also get you the possibility, you having the possibility to get to know the speakers more. This time, we have two speakers on board, which is awesome. We have on the one hand, we have Jamie Smart. I know Jamie personally. I had the pleasure of attending a workshop of yours, and I can only say it was amazing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this call. It was just fucking incredible. We had such a great time, not only with Jamie, but also the tribe that he attracted. It was just great. I got so much value out of it. We're going to talk about this later. You've been on BBC Man, on Sky News. You have a #1 top best-selling book. Its name is Clarity, or the new one, which I love even more because it's shorter and I'm a lazy reader. The little book of Clarity, I love that one. Jamie, it's a pleasure to have you on board.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kai. Good to see you, man. Good to see Morten, too.
Yeah, good to see you, too. Yeah, Morten is the next guy that is on this call. It's not a coincidence that he's on this because how long are you coaching, man?
8 years.
8 years now, and you've probably also consumed, as I did, a lot of self-development stuff, a lot of self-development information, books, videos, etc. And this journey led us both to only a few sources of wisdom, and one of it for me and also for Morten that I know is Clarity. I mean, you're the organizer of the Morten Hake Summit, one of the biggest convention summits about self-development in Northern Europe, and I think back then you had Jamie as a speaker one time. I remember you telling me, yeah, I thought this guy's going to talk a little bit about NLP or some shit, and then and then it was just for you this big mind-blowing experience that you had this huge insight. Yeah, feel free to talk about that in a little while as well. So yeah, guys, it's a pleasure to have you on board. My name is Christen. I'm the founder of the Lifestyle Design Convention. For those of you who are wondering, this is like kind of the vessel we're having these regular, more or less regular webinars. And yeah, this next hour is for you guys out there. So be sure to have your questions ready. Thank you for all the hellos again. Sam, Olga, Charlotte, Christina, Amber, Anka, Sina, Anna, Roger. The list goes on and on and on and on. It's so great to have you on board. It's really a pleasure. So use this chat box on the right side. Ask us all the questions you have. This webinar is not for us that we just talk. It's much more for you guys. So if you have any questions, we're going to dive into it. After this short introduction, we're going to have a little discussion. Then I'm going to show you for a quick 3 minutes a special offer that we have together with Jamie. We call it the Jamie Smart Experience. So we're going to talk about that for 3 minutes, and then we'll dive right into your question for the last half an hour. So we're going to finish around 9 o'clock. So yeah, guys, I talked a lot. So Jamie, it's lovely to have you on board. And I mean, this webinar is called Stress Less and Create More. And I would be interested in, like, how did you handle stress in the past? So before you came across Clarity, we're certainly going to talk about that in great length as well.
Well, so how I originally used to handle stress was by drinking alcohol, and it was quite effective, but had significantly negative side effects. So I stopped drinking quite a long time ago, like, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago. But then what I discovered, Kai, was, like, I didn't know I'd been drinking to handle stress. I just thought I was drinking because I liked drinking. When I stopped drinking, all of a sudden I was stressed out of my mind. I was tense, I was angry, all this stuff. So I started exploring, and I started looking for ways to deal with it. And that led me to personal development and self-help. It led me to NLP and that sort of stuff. And the stuff I learned really made a big difference to me, so much so I ended up quitting my job and very much going down the lifestyle route. And so I read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, back in '07, and I was like, that's it. So I got my business running on autopilot and went for my first mini retirement, a 3-month ski holiday in Canada. And my theory was that I would just, once I was doing that, I would be feeling so successful, so contented, so happy, so joyful. And instead I was stressed and I was miserable and I was anxious. I was like, what is wrong with this? So I really had to go back to the drawing board. And I was very fortunate. I hired a coach, and my coach had just started learning about these principles, the principles behind clarity. And at first, I thought it was just an interesting technique, and so I was sort of learning about it. And then, like you said, what happened to Morten, I started having insights. And what I suddenly, like the first insight I had was that everything that I'd been looking for outside of myself in goals and money and partners and business, everything I'd been looking for outside of myself, it's everything you've been looking for outside of you, it's actually within you. And I'd heard people say that kind of thing, but I suddenly went to knowing it. Like, you know your name, or you know that you know you like feeling good. I just knew it. And then I saw that this is true for everybody, and that the fact that you can even see or hear means you have this source of peace, of security, of creativity, of wisdom, of excitement and energy and clarity already within you. And again, Kai, I went from not knowing that, or kind of knowing it intellectually, to knowing it like you know your own name. And then what I saw was that this wasn't just a good idea, that these principles, they really are principles, just like gravity is a principle. Not principles in the term of good ideas, but like stuff you can rely on. And so that's why I love sharing this stuff. That's why I love, you know, being out in Norway with you and Morten and the rest of the tribe there, just sharing this understanding, because what happens is when people hear this, when they really hear it, it touches something deep within us, something, because what I'm doing my best to point to is something that you actually already know, that it's already there within you. And so yeah, these days I don't really handle stress, except when I do. When I do, I usually do it by eating a cookie or something like that. But most of the time, I'm very lucky, because I start to get stressed, and then I realize what's going on, that it's a trick of the mind. And if you'd have said to me 20 years ago or 10 years ago, if you'd have said to me, hey, Jamie, there's no such thing as stress. It's just a trick of the mind, like an optical illusion, like a mirage, I would have been like, that's not real. That's not true. But now I see it every day. Absolutely true. Unbelievable as it may sound.
What do you say to people? I mean, you said there is no stress, but I'm going to be the critic here.
Feel free.
There is stress, right? There is my job that kills me, for example, or there is this girlfriend that really makes me angry. That's not me doing this. It's that girl stresses me out, or that boyfriend stresses me out, or that job stresses me out, or my parents stress me out. What do you say to people who tell you, well, there is actually stress like this?
The first thing I say is I understand, and I often get tricked in the same way, because absolutely it seems like it's coming from out there. It seems like it's coming from circumstances or other people or whatever. And that's exactly the trick of the mind I'm talking about. So, like, my favorite example of this is a teddy bear. Little kids have a teddy bear, and they hold that teddy bear, and it makes them feel good. But actually, 100% of those feelings are coming from within the body and the psyche of the child. The teddy bear's got nothing to do with it. Like, none of those feelings are coming from the teddy bear. And we know that. We know it's a trick of the mind that we play on children to get them to go to sleep and stuff. But actually, what I'm talking about is at the level of principle. That's also the case with the parents, the job, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the money, whatever. And I'll give you a great example of this. So I got an email from the other day from a woman called Mahima. And Mahima said that she'd been in a bookstore, 10 months ago or something, and was flicking through my book and read a story or two in it and read this line that 100% of your feelings are coming from thought in the moment, that you're always living in the feeling of your moment-to-moment thinking. And she read that, and she thought, oh, I got to get that book. I'll download it to my Kindle. But then she forgot about it. Then 2 months later, that line popped back into her head. You're living in the feeling of thought in the moment. She Googled it and found the book and found videos and that sort of thing. Started getting into this stuff. Well, 6 weeks after that, I didn't mention Mahima lives in Nepal, and the place where she lived got hit by a massive earthquake that killed thousands of people, that destroyed buildings, and she was terrified like everyone else. Terrified, death and destruction going on around her. And suddenly, in the midst of it, it came back. She suddenly remembered, like she saw it. You're living in the feeling of thought in the moment. And she suddenly fell out of all that fear and worry and stress and felt totally at peace within herself. And in that moment, she knew exactly what to do, how to reach out to people, how to help people. And she's been doing that ever since, helping people out. We sent over books to her. She's taking part in one of our programs. Now we gave her a scholarship on it so that she can take this understanding out to there. Now here's the thing. If Mahima was able to see in the middle of the death and destruction of an earthquake, and they were getting 2 to 3 aftershocks a day, and she was able to see for herself that all of her well-being was coming from inside of her, and nothing outside of her could cause her stress. It was dangerous, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of danger. But because she could see where her feelings were coming from, she wasn't under stress, she wasn't in terror. And she would still get shocked sometimes and that sort of thing. But what I'm talking about, Kai, is something, and this is why I say it's a trick of the mind, The sun has just gone down outside of my window in London. Well, over the horizon. It wasn't right outside my window. But the sun hasn't really gone down. The Earth has rotated. It looks like the sun goes down, but that's a trick of the mind. It looks like the stars go floating across the sky, but that's an optical illusion. Well, the mistaken belief that we're feeling something other than thought in the moment, that's a trick of the mind. And as you start to see through that, life changes completely, because you fall out of a misunderstanding about how life works and into reality. And the great news is we're built for reality. Human beings do great in reality. We don't do so great when we believe stuff that isn't true, but we do great in reality.
If you would compare to what you talk about, or what you, teaching is the wrong word, but what you talk about and what you explain to people, what is the difference between what you talk about and what the rest of the self-development world talks about?
Well, I guess I'll tell you some of the differences, and this will sound weird to people. I don't tell people anything to do. So most of self-development, personal development, that sort of thing, gives positive advice. So it says, here are the 6 tips for having a happier relationship, or the 10 beliefs you need to adopt if you're going to be a successful business person, or here are the 3 techniques that will give you unstoppable confidence. And what you need to do is practice them, or remember them, or apply them. And I work from a completely different position. I work from the position of, if you have an embodied understanding about something that's already true about life, you're going to do great. So a great example is this is gravity. Everyone who's listening and watching here has an exquisite embodied understanding of the principle of gravity that's so nuanced and so exquisite. You understand it so well that you've used it 1,000 times this week without even having to think about it. You don't apply gravity or practice gravity or apply your gravity handling techniques as you walk down the stairs. You do it effortlessly with nothing on your mind because you deeply understand the implications of gravity. So what I do my best to do is create a space where my audience, my coaching clients, my students, my colleagues get a glimpse of something that's already true about life and already true about our perception and our feeling. And the moment you start to glimpse it, you start to get an embodied understanding of it. And as you start to get an embodied understanding of it, it implements automatically. Now, this sounds too good to be true. Automatic implementation, there's nothing to do. But if I remember correctly, this happened to you on the workshop, didn't it, Kai?
Mm. Yeah, I had two experiences actually, and I remember you said you liked one more than the other. And the reason for that being that one thing happened more automatically than the other thing. And I would like to, after this, also ask Morten about his experiences. But what happened for me is that we were with a group, and out of stupidity, we did a bet, and I had because I didn't win the bet, I had to scare somebody, and so we were on this big square, and I scared somebody, and it was not the right person to scare.
Yeah.
It was like the worst kind of football hooligan fan you can imagine, and I don't know, like just complete stupidity. I didn't think, I was like in a great mood, and I just scared this person, and this guy like looked at me with like a death stare. I was like, shit, I'm gonna die now. And through like the perfect support of the group, we could like remove the anger from this person, like just kind of distract him so we could leave in the end. But that's not the main point. The main point is a situation like that will leave me feel very guilty for a very long time, like a very long time. I would feel stupid about it, which of course, obviously, it's something stupid. But I would rethink it and rethink it and rethink it and rethink it, and the whole evening will be destroyed, certainly destroyed. But what happened this time was like I felt bad about it for some time, and at the next moment I felt again good, much faster than I would normally. And the thing is, it all happened automatically. As you said with gravity, I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to implement the process of clarity now, you know? It was just like something that happened to me. And since the workshop in general, it feels easier, everything. And I don't have those huge lows and ups and downs anymore. I still have them, kind of, but they just get to normality much faster, kind of, and I just feel much more balanced. So that's what I got from me. For me, it wasn't like a huge insight that was like crying and like trembling. And I know from people who had that, for me, it was more like a gradual, like, oh, interesting. And that's also nice. Like everybody has their individual experiences. I mean, Morten, we talked now a little bit about like the negative side, like the stress thing, but we also called this stress less and create more. In terms of creativity, where did you find that this understanding, this inside out, this like everything is just a teddy bear understanding? How could you apply this?
I love that question, because that's like, to me, I was at the story you told earlier about and then arranging this workshop with Jamie in Oslo. I've been a student of personal development for many years, and I've always like tried to figure out how to feel better, how to like get in the zone, like what's the like the ninja trick application that I can apply in order to just feel good and let that creative flow come through me and create from that. Because I know the times I'm in flow, I create unfiltered, from whatever I represent, I express unfiltered. And at the workshop, I was just like trying to understand everything. I was like, okay, so Jamie says, you're feeling or thinking, yeah, that makes sense. But I, yeah. Okay, so I'm feeling my thinking. All right. So now, what do I do with that? How do I change my thinking so I can feel good? That was like what I
What
was
is the
doing.
process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then for me, it was the realization of what thought, it was just the realization that, thought is flowing through me, and then I have an experience of it. Thought and feeling comes and goes, and it's the same thing. It's kind of like two parts of the same coin, or two sides of the same coin. It's this unfolding of life that's kind of like, and seeing that for myself, all of this ruminating about trying to figure out just fell away. It was like falling down into a bed of feathers, and it was just like my shoulders dropped, and all of a sudden I didn't have to impress anymore. I didn't have to vad heter det? I don't know the English word for it, but it's kind of like show up in a certain way. I didn't have to do certain things. I could just let be. I could let me be me, and I could all of a sudden, yeah, it was just to me it was a huge insight. To me, I stood up and had to like move, and I had to like show the holy shit, because I like to express, and that's my personality. To me it was like, whoa, that was huge, because I could let go, or could let go is a way of saying it. Another way of saying it is just like I apparently let go in that moment, and then after that, it didn't make sense anymore to try and figure out uh, what to do in order to feel good. It was more like, okay, feelings is a part of this experience, comes and goes, and I can put my energy into trying to figure out a new skill set, or put my energy into actual um, building blocks that's not relevant to my well-being. Because Jamie taught me, and like understood on your workshop, Jamie, that I was born perfectly me. I was born with a well-being that's there underneath all of this trying to figure out, all of this ruminating, all of this frustrated, this frustration. It's there
And
waiting.
I'd love.
You know?
Can I ask you a question, Morten? Because I love what you're saying, and my experience is, since I stopped working on trying to feel good, I feel good way more of the time.
Yeah.
What's your?
So true.
I like how my. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, perfect example is just, I know I've heard, one experience you've had with Sky News and going on that and being nervous and trying to like figure out what to say and what to do. I had something similar with a news channel interviewing me, and when the World Cup was in Norway, and they wanted to like talk about social interactions and flirting at the event downtown, and they wanted to bring in me to talk about that, and I got the invitation like 12 o'clock noon, and then I was supposed to be there at 7 o'clock. And this is after attending your workshop and having this insight for myself. And whilst before I would notice my hands getting sweaty, I would talk constantly about what should I say or think, how should I show up and how should I frame this in a way that's that will please everyone who's watching, and oh my god, what if people don't like me, and completely freaking out, and my mouth getting dry. And here's the thing though, like during that time from noon till 7, I could feel my paws getting sweaty. I could feel my mouth getting dry. But instead of engaging with those insecure experience or whatever I could call it, it didn't make sense for me to engage in it. It was more like I was noticing that it was happening, but when knowing that there's nothing I can do in order to feel good in the future when I'm on camera, there's nothing I can do now. It's just like, all right, that's happening. And then while on camera, just like you have said so many times, Jamie, the best thing I got going for me, is a clear mind. I cannot predict if I'm gonna have a clear mind or a busy mind when I'm there and then. But apparently, this understanding lets my mind be free of all of that ruminating. It's so easy to when we're insecure. It's so easy to kind of like take that insecurity and like make it into some kind of form and kind of like try to figure that out. And this is very important because it feels very intense. And then trying to and then it just becomes this big thought-created monster whilst realizing on a fundamental level that it's just feeling thought in the moment. Then the relationship with our moments, or my experience, my relationship with my moment changes. Like I have a better relationship with every single moment. So then it freed up my mind, my being when I was in front of camera. I was there and then. I was present. I was flirting with the journalist. I was flirting with the camera. Everything that the perfect sentences at the perfect time just came to me, through me, because I wasn't busy holding on to some kind of insecure thought monster.
In such situations, a lot of times for me, the seduction is, I want to say, but what is the process?
Well, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. In any moment, if I'm in the moment and flowing, or I'm caught up in my thinking. Now, if I'm caught up in thinking, it's almost always because I believe that my feelings are coming from something other than thought. So if I'm believing something that's fundamentally untrue, the best thing you got going for you, see, it's not possible for you to feel anything other than thought, but we sometimes believe it is, okay? If you're believing something that's not true, the best thing you got going for you is waking up to that fact. Now, here's the good news. We all have the automatic smelling salts within us, because otherwise you would still be as angry as the angriest you've ever been in your whole life. But you're not, because your system is self-corrected. So we've got a self-correcting mechanism. So the process, if you want to know the process, is get a deeper understanding of the principles behind clarity. You get a deeper understanding of how this works, an embodied understanding, and that automatic process is going to run even more fluidly, more uninterruptedly. But I mean, I often say to my students, you ever see one of those signs, if there's heavy machinery working, it says, keep your fingers out of the machinery? I say, keep your fingers out of the machinery. So I'll give you a great example. I saw someone asked a question about public speaking. Said, what can you do about public speaking if you're anxious about it? Well, I'll often find, especially if I'm going to go on TV, I get anxious beforehand. I get worried, I get nervous, I get jumpy. But I don't even try and do anything about it. I'm relatively comfortable feeling uncomfortable. So I just if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'd be uncomfortable. And then, but here's the interesting thing. So I was getting ready to go on TV, so I'm in the waiting room, and if it had been the old days, I would have been trying to do stuff to make myself feel better, okay, to get myself into a good state or whatever. And there's things you can do that, but I decided to do an experiment, which is, let's see what happens. Because this is like a really big opportunity, right? It's going out live to 5 million people, so it's being interviewed and stuff. So I'm feeling really quite jumpy and nervous and anxious and all that, like Morten said, sweating palms and stuff. I thought, well, let's see what happens if I put my money where my mouth is and I don't do anything about it. So I'm like uncomfortable as hell. And then they come and get me to go on like 20 minutes before they said I would. First they said I was going to be at such and such a time. Then they said, no, it's going to be another half an hour. Then they come like 5 minutes later and say, you're on. Well, if I'd been halfway through my special process for fixing my thinking, I would have been screwed because life doesn't know your plans. You know, but they came and got me, took me on air, and I knew, even as I was sitting down in the chair, the best thing you got going for you is to get a connection with the person in front of you. Get a connection. You get a connection, your head's going to clear. So I just listened to the first question the interviewer asked. And then I opened my mouth and started talking. And you know what? We do great at that sort of stuff when we're not caught up in our thinking, when we've got a clear head. And that's exactly what happened. Now, the fact that could happen was a function of my understanding of these principles. But really, that's just another way of saying I didn't get in my own way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the art of not getting in your own way.
I don't remember whether Morten or you was who said that when somebody said at some point, well, I'm really bad at speaking in front of people. Somebody, I don't remember who it was, but you're speaking now. Like you are speaking now. What is kind of the difference? So I really like that example. It's just like you are able to open your mouth. Everything else is just like thinking in your head that distracts you from actually doing it. And I also thought, like, when I think of the amount of nervousness I had, or nervous thinking, as you would say, in the past before workshops, and hope that everything will go well, and just the amount of fear that I felt and also felt was real, and then the amount of times that I in reality fucked up, which was close to zero. Like there was maybe one training where I got like one time a negative feedback, and apart from that it was always positive. But my feelings or the whole thing was not at all corresponding with reality. I was very, very far off with my thinking and the amount that I believed in from what's actually happening. And I think that's all the time like that. If you think about all the times you've been nervous in the past, and in the end everything went out, like just went perfectly, and it's just, we are very good at living in a dream world, or we trained ourselves of living in a dream world where we come up with all those scenarios and we believe that there will be true, like we actually can predict the future, which we're not able to.
That's very wisely said, Kai. And it actually, like, speaking to everyone on this call, you know, what Kai said is there's so much truth in it that we're living in a dream world, and it takes a lot of kind of humility to go, wow, even though I think of myself as a sensible person who makes rational decisions, the fact is that I spend a certain amount of my life believing in stuff that is just basically not real. And if you can face that and kind of go, wow, you know, takes some humility to go, okay, like I'm a right-thinking person, and yet still I make really important decisions based on stuff that's nonsense. There's actually a lot of freedom there because it allows you to look more closely at reality. And that's, you know, you asked a question, Kai, which is what's the difference between what I'm teaching and what most of personal development stuff is teaching. So one of the differences is they're teaching stuff to do, whereas I'm teaching, here's how it works. And if it ever sounds like I'm telling you what to do, I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm describing how something already works. And as you glimpse it, it makes a difference. But another difference is most of it is like additive, saying the idea is you plus a bunch of good ideas equals super you. Whereas I'm saying, no, you're already super you. And if we just subtract the nonsense that we've been taught by school or by well-meaning adults or whatever, you know, you minus some nonsense equals super you. So it's a subtractive model. And the other thing I'd say is what I'm pointing to is something that you already know. This is already there inside of you. And so no matter what you may have been through in the past, or no matter what disadvantages you may face or anything like that, I swear to you, you have really good reason to be hopeful. Because I've worked with people in all kinds of situations, and I haven't met anyone who doesn't have this innate capacity for inner security, confidence, well-being, clarity, peace of mind, creativity. It's there within us all because it's what we're made of as human beings. It's our essence. That's why children aren't born needing therapy. You know, as babies do good because it's there in all of us.
Yeah. And I think I would love to, after that, also discuss some examples that I heard of, like jails where they applied it, and like it opened up the eyes for me as well to like, okay, if they can do it, kind of like it's probably possible for me too, because I have a pretty awesome life. So let's dive into that afterwards. I just want to take around 3 minutes to tell people about an offer that we thought of actually half an hour ago or something, or like an hour ago. And if you're on YouTube, just forward maybe 3 minutes if you're not interested, but we're just going to go briefly into it. You're going to be at the Lifestyle Design Convention talking. Morten, you will be there as well, talking about the same principles, the principles that we'll describe right after, because that was a question as well. It's going to be a 2-day event in Zurich, and we're going to have speakers where I felt, or my team felt, that they really talk from their inner truth, from their heart. Coaches who are really here to enable you to design the life of your dreams, to really go for what you want, and really, we really wanted to create a network of people. I know from experience that a lot of times you're out there and you want to work on yourself, but everybody around you has this normal 9-to-5 day job maybe, or just the relationships that you don't want, and you feel lonely because they all look at you and think like, what the hell are you doing here in this self-development community? And we really want to create a space where like-minded people come together who want to get more out of their lives and really connect them. So this is already part of the convention, and we're going to keep on doing that afterwards. We're going to have alumni meetups in real life, and also Skype sessions where we actually help each other to grow in an authentic and vulnerable way. And I just wanted to, I hope that works. You should now see on the right side an offer, the Jamie Smart Experience. If you don't see it, let me know. You guys see it, Morten and Jamie?
I can see it when I click pop in.
Yeah, then it's good. Then it should come up. That's perfect. So it's going to be 5 special tickets that we have. Those 5 special tickets are for the Lifestyle Design Convention Zurich. So you will be attending both days. If you click on sign up now, a pop-up will come up and you will see what this offer entails. It's going to be basically the whole experience just in VIP mode. So you will have a VIP dinner with all the speakers that we have, with Morten Hake, with Jamie Smart on board, with Mark Manson, like a blogger who has 2 million views every month, John P. Morgan, the great, an amazing coach. So it's going to be all those interesting people and just a really selected group. Then it's going to be a 1 hour read. Echo, somebody. Can you guys mute yourself real quickly? That would be perfect. So it's going to be a 1 hour meet and greet with Jamie. So you will personally interact with him for one hour. You're going to have the option, of course, also during those 2 days to talk to them. It's not going to be an event where like the coach is going to be here and the attendees will be praising the Lord, but it's much more really an authentic interaction. You're going to have food included. You will have all the speeches on the video, and the most importantly, what I think is becoming a part of the tribe and the support network that gets you through also after the time, because you will have all those inspirational, amazing ideas, and then you go back to reality and you kind of forget about it, or you kind of think, yeah, but, and that's the most important part. And I think it's a really great opportunity. Have a look at the offer, sign up now. It's going to be 5 units available. It's only available for you guys who are attending that webinar and for the Jamie Smart tribe. So he's only going to share it with the people who are following him. So I'm not gonna have any codes or anything for anybody out there who's not attending this webinar live or who's not in the tribe of Jamie. Yeah, so that's about it. Sign up for it now if you feel like it, and we're gonna dive now right into the questions, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect. So I think very good questions. We talked about the principles, and Amber asked, in brief, could you touch on the principles? What are they?
Yeah, sure. And before I describe what the principles behind clarity are, I want to describe what I mean by principles, because if you Google like principles, you'll get all kinds of good ideas. Like, here are the principles of how to design a good website, or here are the principles of how to make delicious mayonnaise, or whatever. But there's another meaning to the word principles, which is fundamental scientific truth. So for instance, gravity is a principle, or the laws of thermodynamics, there are principles. So like gravity, you don't really think gravity, you were born into gravity, and you're a subject of gravity your whole life. So you're born into the principle of gravity, and the principle of gravity has a whole bunch of implications. Like if you throw something up, it's going to come back down. If you trip, you're going to fall over. If you stand up, that's going to require energy. All of that's implications of gravity. Well, just like you're born into gravity, you're born into the principles behind clarity. And these were discovered like 40 years ago by a guy called Sydney Banks. And so the principles behind clarity are the principles of thought, the principle of consciousness, and the principle of mind. And so a way of thinking about it is like if you got a new smartphone, you get it out of its box and you charge it up and you switch it on and you log on to the internet. Well, your smartphone's kind of born into the internet. The internet was there before the phone existed, and the internet's going to be there long after the phone has gone to the phone graveyard. Well, that's sort of like the principle of mind. We're born into mind. We're born into this intelligence that shows up in our physical body. Like, for instance, you know, you're breathing in and out. You've been breathing in and out all the way through this webinar, but you haven't been having to think about it. It's happening automatically, and your body has this amazing intelligence, and that same intelligence is resident in your emotional system. It's resident in your thought system, and it's the power source, the source of every idea you've ever had, the source of every beautiful feeling you've ever had. All of that comes from the principle of mind. And the principle of thought is our ability to have a perceptual experience of life. So, and this is the strangest thing about all this, you know, if you look around wherever you're listening to this, look around your room or look at the screen or whatever, I know it looks like you're looking out through your eyes at a world out there, but if you research the neurology, you'll find that actually what's happening is you're generating a virtual perceptual reality from inside of your psychological properties and projecting it out there. And that's just, I still find that just the strangest thing. So the power of thought, the principle of thought, is the thing that allows you to create a perceptual experience. And then the principle of consciousness is what gives you a feeling of whatever's in your thinking. So as you go through life, you're always living in the feeling of the principle of thought being brought to life by consciousness. And that's quite an amazing realization, because what it means, Amber, is every beautiful feeling you've ever felt in your whole life was a thought. And every unpleasant feeling you've ever felt in your life was a thought. And every beautiful feeling you're ever going to feel is a thought. And every nasty feeling you're ever going to feel is a thought. And you're going to have both. You know, you're going to have, as you go through your life, you're going to have nasty feelings and you're going to have beautiful feelings. And every single one of them is going to be a thought taking form in the moment. It's going to be this formless principle of thought taking form and giving you an experience of life. And what that means is there's nothing to be afraid of, because you're always going to be living in whatever's running through your thought system. I mean, what it means is you can never be a victim of circumstance. Isn't that beautiful? Like Mahima with the earthquake, I can imagine it seemed like to her and the people she was with, like they were the ultimate victims of circumstance. And then she suddenly saw, oh, you can't be a victim of circumstance, because no matter what's going on in the world, you're always going to be living in the feeling of thought taking form in your experience. So that's the principles in a nutshell.
I love that. And I think what you touched upon in the last principle is that, like, it makes you also, people always ask me, like, okay, but so I don't have to prepare anything, I don't have to do anything anymore if I know those principles. And that's not the case.
Yeah, that's not my experience.
I love how, like, it's like the last 5 minutes when I listened to you talk, Jamie, it's just like, it was a good vibe. You know, it was a good vibe or feeling or whatever. That was my experience, and then, you know, at times I can recognize and understand how easy it is to go from, damn, that felt great, and then when new experiences arises, it's so easy to try to, like, figure out what just happened, or like try to go back and, like, okay, so I need to understand the words that you just said, you know, and then trying to figure out it intellectually, and then again, you know, kind of misunderstanding because I felt, you know, a touch now of just like vibing with whatever was there, and this formless energy, or just this unfolding of whatever was there, and then, you know, I could just, like, understand if people will kind of like, okay, what just happened? What did I just understand? Or what was he saying? And then, because when you got the question, like, can you talk about the principles? I was kind of like worried or afraid that to complicate it again, because when it's clear, it's so simple and straightforward, and you can feel it, you know. And you guys kind of like.
I can completely agree. I mean, I'm the most critical, or I am in possession of the most critical mind you can imagine. And whenever, like, I was also, when I read your book, or when I listened to your book, actually, the first time, I remember I was at Morten's place, and I started listening to it, and I fell asleep And when I woke up, the whole book was finished.
I
That's the
love it.
easy way to read it, Kai.
Yeah, it's easy because you said like listen to it like it is background music and not try to figure it out. And I had a similar experience than you had right now, Morten. It just feels good. And whenever my brain gets in there, and it gets in there, and that's okay too. You know, I just wanted to point it out, like I'm not feeling guilty about, oh no, now I've been critical to this. That's fine. You know, I like that happens. But what I also realized for me, it's just it feels pretty fucking damn good. It's just relaxing to listen to it. And that's kind of the way I nowadays look for information or look for external stimulus. It's more like, okay, does that feel right? Instead of does it sound logical? Does it sound logical now? That's the way I tried to figure out a lot of stuff in the past, and it didn't help me at all, kind of. It's good for some stuff, but in general, it's good to listen and then like trust your feelings as well.
Well, and Christian asked the question. He says, so the less you actually try to understand about the principles, the more you understand. Is that right? And what I'd say, Christian, is what we're pointing to with the principles is something that's actually bigger than most people's current model of reality. So you can't understand it with your existing reality. So what happens is that, and this is certainly what happened in the training to Kai and to Morten, is as you kind of listen, my job is to create a space where it's almost like your intellect gets out of the way for a few minutes, and then you glimpse something that's already true from within you, something you've known since you were a little child. You know, a lot of times people will say this, I feel like a little child again. I feel that same sense of freedom and joy and possibility that you have when you're a little kid. Well, that's because, you know, when you're a little kid, you don't have this big, highly articulated game plan of how life works and all these rules of how it works. And what you find is that that's actually, there's a lot to be said for that, because you're a lot closer to how it really works. And how it really works is that we're living in the feeling of moment-to-moment thinking, but it looks like there's more to it than that. And as you start to see through this for yourself, it takes a lot off your mind and opens you up to that source of creativity and possibility that's there within every single human being.
Just wanted to add another question of Sam. He asked, how do you shut off your brain at night before you sleep? I have so much going on in my brain, it stops me or wakes me up again.
Yeah, I know my experience, Sam. It's a great question. The issue, and this is going to sound strange at first, but I know it seems like how do I switch off my brain is the right question, but the right question is actually, why is there so much going on in there? And what I'm going to suggest to you, Sam, is the reason there's so much going on in there is because you have thoughts about things, situations, people, the future, the past, that sort of thing, and you have feelings, and it seems to you, this is my guess, it seems to you like your feelings are telling you about those future scenarios or those past scenarios or those other people or whatever. Now, the moment you start to see that your feelings, they don't know anything about the future or the past or other people or any of that stuff, your feelings just know about thought in the moment. You're going to start, as soon as you start to see that, you're going to fall out of your thinking and back into the present. And you'll go to sleep. See, and sleep's an interesting one, Sam. When you do fall asleep, it's because you fall out of your thinking. You kind of fall out of it. You drop out of it. So you're up there and you're thinking and you're believing your feelings are coming from all that stuff. And then at a certain point, you go, oh, well, whatever. And you fall out of it and you fall asleep. And so that, in a way, that's proof that you have this capacity. You have this capacity to fall out of the misunderstanding that puts a lot on your mind. You know, as soon as someone believes their feelings are coming from out there in space or time, or out there in their personality, or out there in their past, or out there in other people, as soon as a person believes that, they're going to have a lot on their mind. It's going to give them a lot to manage and control and that sort of thing. And so what happens for me, Sam, is if I'm all wound up at a certain point, it'll occur to me, where do you believe your feelings are coming from? And in almost every case, it looks to me in those moments like my feelings are coming from somewhere other than thought. And the moment I see that, I start to wake up.
I like that very much, and it connects also the next question that Ariane and also Charlie asked. I like the one of Charlie because it's a very specific question. So you have a presentation, and I think it also goes in what Morten already talked about, is like you have these kind of like, you're very stressed, and it's like, how do you prevent that from happening? And I kind of want to answer part of it. It's like I have presentations almost every day, let's say, right? Because I do workshops, communication, leadership workshops every day. And what I found for myself is if I focus on the content that I want to provide for people, I will get more stressed because I'm afraid of like, do I remember everything and stuff like that? And if I focus on the people, if I really tune in with the people, then that doesn't happen. And mostly I don't tell exactly the maybe not exactly the structure that I wanted, but it comes across as much more impactful because people, they have like this underlying radar, this sensor. They can feel if you're in tune with them. They can feel if you connect with them. And we try so many times to impress people by being perfect, or by like trying to deliver all the information. That's where most presentations become boring, because people focus on the content instead of the people. And I think that's something I wanted to add to this. Is there something you guys want to add, Morten, maybe?
Well, it's easy to. Well, this illusion is so persuasive that it's so easy to create these causes and effects, kind of like after the fact, that kind of life is unfolding and we're nervous, and we kind of like after the fact pointed towards like, okay, it's this thing from the outside is like sending me feelings. Well, then in reality, apparently, life works a different way. Like, we're not experiencing the future, meeting that we're gonna, or presentation that we're gonna have. We're just experiencing this moment. We're having an experience of this moment. But it looks. This illusion is so real. It's so real. Like even now, even now, this moment I'm spending right now talking to you, the last hour, I've had insecure thinking because there's a lot of people listening to my words, and should I say this now and this now, what not, back and forth. But resting on the knowledge that I'm not feeling 50 people watching me. I'm feeling my experience, period. I'm feeling a thought-generated experience unfolding now, and now, and now. And so the presentation has nothing to do. It looks that way, like it really looks that way, but you can give a presentation to 10,000 people and you'd have 10,000 different experiences of that. And I know, you know, all three of us have had probably hundreds or thousands of different presentations, and we've had a different vibe for every one of them. There's no real correlation, there's no real cause and effect there, but we map out trends and ideas and kind of create this cool cognitive illusion that makes sense to us with our intellect automatically, and that's part of it, you know. So it's going to look that way. It's going to look that way, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Knowledge always kind of like, the knowledge always kind of like pulls the weight under the big problem, you know. It's not a big understanding this fundamentally, like seeing this and realizing, like just seeing what's true for what it is, you know, kind of like pulls the weight under it being something that needs to be engaged with, you know. You don't have to go down that road. You can recognize that road and go like, oh, you know, I'm buying into, you know, and then more easily get back on track. Well, that's an implication that happens apparently when realizing this.
Yeah, I like the picture that, like James said at the workshop, is like we run a very, very complex interface all the time, but it's we are running it. It's like I'm like creating the world every second, and that helped me to so much to understand. It's like, this is actually me creating it. And so many times when you ask people, did you have that experience as well, and they're like, no, actually I felt stressed and the other person felt perfectly happy, and I was sure that there was stress in the room. You know? There was this thing, like stress was like a ball, and like everybody could feel it. And sometimes that's also where another thing that I really am passionate about is like radical honesty helped me, which is like telling what's happening in the moment for you also out loudly. It's like to understand that mostly, like, yes, there is a kind of censure that you can realize, okay, I'm in flow and probably people will like it, but it's much like, if you try to manage that, you will just go simply crazy. If you try to manage everybody's experience in the room, I can only speak for myself. I tried that so many times. It's like, okay, now everybody should be happy. It's impossible. It's impossible, and it just you use up so much energy instead of just trying to focus on the people around you, really, instead of the stuff that goes on in your mind and on all the insecurities. Is just to tune into the people. That helped me a lot. Yeah. Should we go into another question, maybe? Sam asked as well. We're 3 minutes over, so maybe one last question. Is that okay for you guys? I don't know about you, but I feel fucking relaxed. I feel very good.
Dude.
Yeah. So Sam asked, I had an unfortunate... Is it? Yeah, it's kind of a question. I'm just going to read it out. I had an unfortunate accident 3 weeks ago. I fell, broke my front teeth, and had stitches in my lip. I was knocked out and taken to the hospital. To make things worse, I am unemployed and no insurance. I thought to myself a week later, after being depressed and frustrated and disappointed with myself, I realized that I needed to change my thoughts of what happened in the past and focus day to day. I would be interested in hearing your thoughts on the last sentence.
Well, it sounds to me like he suddenly saw that he, innocently, was allowing thoughts about the past to interfere with his day-to-day experience, and that happens to all of us sometimes. But my guess is that was it Sam that it seemed to Sam like his feelings were coming from the past. The feelings were coming from what happened. And the reality is there's only one place feelings can come from, and that's from right now. Right now. The moment we believe our feelings are telling us about anything other than this hot second, we've lost touch with reality. You know, Sid Banks used to say, a step to the outside is a step in the wrong direction. And I think what he meant by that is the moment we believe that our feelings are letting us know about something other than this pure moment of creation. You know, we're creating our experience moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Having an experience of the past, you're creating it right now. Having an experience of the future, you're creating it right now. Having an experience of another person, you're creating it right now. And the moment you realize it's all right now, you fall out of that thinking and back into the present. And that's what I think Sam got a glimpse of from the sound of it.
Perfect. I think we're going to finish it off here, guys. I just wanted to, first of all, look at the structure of my webinar because I forgot something, which is fine. But yeah, so I just wanted to say sign up for our Facebook page, the Lifestyle Design Convention. And now it got back to me, actually, whatever. So sign up for the Lifestyle Design Convention website where you will get updates regularly also about webinars that we're doing, about news of the speakers, about hotels that you can go to, stuff like that, and a lot of inspirational thoughts that we just gather that touches us, and then we share it with the world. And I just wanted to ask you guys, Jamie, if people want to get in touch with you, what is the easiest way to do so?
Facebook's by far the easiest way. Here, I'll post my my Facebook stuff here as well.
Mm. And I also want to just say, guys out there and guys and girls, if you want to have read the book Clarity, the little book of clarity, or listen to the audio book, actually. I found in my experience it's a very, very good book to also listen to. So really check that out. It really changed a lot for me. Yeah, Morten, if people want to get in touch with you, with what you're doing, what is the best way for them to do so?
Facebook here as well. It's the easiest. So I posted that, or kind of posted that.
Yeah,
yeah, and I also wanted to just say that I hope that I see as many of you people as possible in January, because you know, one thing is sitting here and kind of like having this. It's a dialogue, but it's you know, it's us talking, and I want to like you know, obviously connect with people and meet you guys, and you know, getting into. We were all, or Jamie went there, but we were at the last Lifestyle Design Convention, and you know, for all these conferences and stuff, it's like you connect with like-minded people, and there's this support and this vibe and this vibe that you're not alone in whatever you're going through, because people are there kind of to open up, you know. So there's true value in that. It's invaluable, you know.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there.
Same here, man. Same here. And whenever I just remember like your workshop, Jamie, or whenever I invested in something, whether that was with money or energy, and really, really wanted to go there, it's just such a different thing if you really are invested. Yeah. And I hear a lot of people saying like, "But Kai, this costs money," and I'm like, "What?" You know, like this is exactly the point. This is the spaces where you grow the most, is where you're like, all right, that's an investment and I'm doing it anyways. And that's exactly the moments where transformation happens, is when you can connect with people. I don't say that everything has to cost money that is beneficial, absolutely not. But like my biggest leaps in my personal transformations happened like when I was like, oh fuck it, and I just did it, and then I was afterwards like kind of like But these are the moments, like I remember with one of the speakers with John P. Morgan, the coaching was like a ridiculous amount for me. It was like, dude. But I did it anyways, and now I'm in this group, and I'm just growing every week, and the bond between the people is amazing that we have there. So, yeah, that's just something I wanted to add. I'm so happy for every single person that was here on this webinar. I'm very grateful that you took the time, that you spent this time with us. We lost almost nobody during that hour, which is beautiful. So have an amazing time, guys. Enjoy your evening. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you, Jamie, to have you, Morten, to have all of you discussing so actively. And I'm really hoping to see a lot of you guys at the next webinar as well as at the convention. And I wish you a beautiful evening. Bye-bye.
See you later, guys.
See you.
Have a good one, everyone. See you in January.
See you. Thank you.